Totally. And then a lot of people don't realize that the sagittal plane behaves differently on the right side of the body versus the left side of the body. So then that's kind of where the two halves of the body are not syncing up, because there's this underlying, frontal plane imbalance between the two halves of the body.
Welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast, the show that interviews the world's top experts in fitness, nutrition, mindset, and beyond. Let's get into the show.
Hey guys, this episode of the Optimum Human Podcast is brought to you by the Savvy Girl's Guide to Organic Beauty. Truth is, lots of women think they're well informed about personal care products, but they haven't invested the time to truly learn about the toxic ingredients in the products they use every day. The Savvy Girl's Guide to Organic Beauty is a value-packed online course that teaches you how to detox your beauty and personal care routine and look younger without toxic chemicals. This program is brought to you by our guest from the Optimum Human Podcast episode number 38, Kelly Bonanno. If you want a sneak peek into what will be taught in the course, check out episode 38, or you can check out Kelly's free 5-day challenge, 5 days to a clean, green beauty routine. Wow, that's a mouthful. This course offers an easy way to get the toxic junk out of your home and away from you and your kids. You'll learn anti-aging tips that will help you to look and feel younger, how to keep your family safe from harmful toxins, easy actionable tips that will improve your health, how safe the products you and your kids currently use are, wellness secrets that mainstream doctors don't share, how to reduce your body's toxic burden, and which products and brands are truly safe and effective. So you can check the show notes at www.theoptimumhuman.com for all the links to find Kelly's free 5-day challenge or to register for the Savvy Girl's Guide to Organic Beauty. We use many of the products Kelly recommends in her program, so we can genuinely recommend her knowledge and the products she recommends, so you know they are good. Hey everyone, my name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulis, and we are your hosts of the Optimum Human Podcast. Today we've got another amazing episode. Well, we don't know if the episode is amazing, but we have an amazing guest, Mrs. Julie Blandin?
Yeah.
Beautiful Julie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Brian, are we recording?
We are.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I don't have to be paranoid that half an hour in, I'll just be like, oh, hey, that was a nice conversation, guys.
Yeah, let's redo that.
Let's have that on tape now.
Beautiful.
How are you doing, young Brian?
Oh, doing well this morning.
It's good, man.
So, anyways, enough about us.
Yeah, who cares?
Not many. So, Julie, for our listeners who don't know who you are and what it is that you do, can you kind of give us a bit of a summary of who you are and how you got here?
Yeah, sure. Well, I got here. Brian reached out to me on Facebook. I teach a course for the Postural Restoration Institute that's called PRI Integration for Fitness and Movement. It's an affiliate course, so it's not one of their primary courses, but my passion is in understanding human movement, optimizing our human machine, our natural biomechanical design, and I've been studying human movement for almost 20 years. I was a personal trainer, Pilates instructor, and progressed my career as an athletic trainer, got certified in strength and conditioning, and then got a PT degree. And so now my primary role right now is physical therapist, and I run a health and wellness clinic in Virginia Beach called Thrive Proactive Health, which focuses on integrating multiple disciplines to help with health and happiness and well-being. So that's where I'm at.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And for people who aren't aware of what PRI is, could you just give a brief rundown of PRI and then what your affiliate course does?
Sure. PRI is really advanced. It's an advanced science, an advanced form of physical therapy, physical medicine, rehabilitation. It's a science that's committed to looking at the neurological and respiratory influences on posture and movement. So it's a science that helps us understand that we're a system of systems, in the sense that when people think about posture and movement, they think of the musculoskeletal system. And if they want to improve posture, they think about, what can I stretch? What can I strengthen to improve my posture? How can I force myself to stand up tall? And through postural restoration, we really understand that posture is neurologically, neurorespiratorily driven. And the respiratory system really has a huge influence on posture and movement. So the science really helps us understand that and understand how to evaluate the various parts of the movement system. And, if we could get all the parts in the correct position and we can optimize various chains of muscles, we can have a more optimized system.
And what does optimized generally look like?
Well, when we go to, when I went through, school, I learned a lot about the extremities. We learned about the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, the elbow, a little bit about the spine. But really, the heart and soul of how we operate and how we move is really at our core of our center of our being, at our diaphragm and, our rib cage. And so part of optimizing human movement is optimizing the thorax and optimizing how this axial frame, which is composed of the pelvis, the spine, the rib cage, the head, neck, the cranial structures, how this axial skeleton is able to dynamically move. And it really, postural restoration takes the focus off of the extremities and really looks at the central structures. And we are designed as humans to do fundamental things like breathing, resting, and rotating, and gait, is constant interchange and rotation between the pelvis and the shoulders. And so this rotation occurs through these central axes. And so postural restoration really looks at how our muscle chains are regulated through those central structures, and we look at symmetry of how the right side and the left side of the body are behaving and how they coordinate and synchronize and match up and become balanced.
Could you talk for a brief moment about the asymmetry in our bodies? Yeah.
So, first, when I teach this to clients, I try to keep it simple in the fact of just, think about how you behave and how you move. I get up in the morning and I hit my alarm clock with my right hand. I turn, I rotate, I reach for the door with my right hand. I go into the kitchen, I'll reach for the counter or the cabinet with my right hand. I've already done 20 things where I reached my body right to left, and I've used my body asymmetrically before I've even, done anything. We use our bodies asymmetrically, and a lot of times the sports we play and the jobs we have will even accentuate that asymmetrical function. But really how we're wired neurologically, our internal systems, respiratory system, neurological system, those are designed asymmetrically. Our right diaphragm is bigger and stronger than our left diaphragm. And so postural restoration helps us understand this from a behavioral standpoint, but also an internal design standpoint, and how our internal design or asymmetrical design affects extremity use, extremity function, spine health. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, if they're developing, pain on one half of the body, why is your right knee, wearing down faster than your left knee? What's the asymmetrical influences that are affecting your left shoulder more than your right shoulder? And how is the central structures, your pelvis, your rib cage, your head and neck, how are they being influenced by this asymmetry? So, at the end of the day, I want to bring some more balance to the human frame so that we can optimize breathing, resting, and the system's ability to rotate.
And speaking of breathing and resting, what would be, I'm not sure how to phrase this, what would be like an easy and simple way for someone who is in a constant state of fight or flight or sympathetic dominance to kind of work on upregulating the parasympathetic system?
Well, I mean, it definitely starts with respiration. Respiration is, I tell this to our clients a lot, it's one of the only systems that has any ability to compete with that neurological system. And so basically, we'll put people in various breathing exercises, but just also, giving them some paced breathing. So activities where they can, we use different tools in our clinic with a capnometer and thought technology, where we will find the resonant frequency breathing. And you don't have to do all that. I mean, at the end of the day, just getting people, most people are overbreathers. Most people, they inhale more dominantly than they exhale. And so a lot of the times to help regulate the system, you have to teach them how to exhale. And you have to teach them how to then pause after their exhalation. You have to teach them so their inhale is not reflexive and there's actual, you're slowing that breathing system down. So there's different paced breathing apps. So if you want to talk about it from an autonomic, mental, cognitive kind of arena, then that's what I would say. If you want to talk about, breathing has such a huge influence on all of our systems, our physical system, our mechanical system, and also our cognitive physiological system.
Definitely. And it's amazing when, because I've been getting into breathing a little bit too and teaching clients.
You've been just getting into it recently?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. Just new to this whole thing. My heart, I'm trying to get that thing beating too. But it's amazing when you exhale an extra 10% past what you think you should be exhaling. Mm-hmm. And you can just feel your core like light up. You're just like, oh wow, like just everything tightens up like crazy. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And, most people that they never feel or realize that because they're not taught.
No, in general, I would say that we're not taught about the rib cage. I mean, some of the most powerful muscles in human movement come off of the rib cage. And, a lot of people don't even realize that their rib cage is meant to move. They walk around with this steel bird cage that's very rigid. But, our rib cage is composed of 139 joints, and 13 rings that are meant to be very mobile, like a slinky or an accordion. And it's meant to move, especially when you exhale. And that's when we exhale and we get the rib cage to move through its full range of motion, the diaphragm is put in a more optimized position to become one of our primary inhalation muscles. A lot of people just inhale and they get by life using their accessory muscles, using their neck, their rib elevators, their back extensors, and they're constantly using their, accessory muscles to breathe. So, I mean, part of being an optimized human is really empowering that respiratory system.
Absolutely, and people wonder why they always have the upper traps and the upper back and the neck tightness and soreness, and it's because with every single breath you're taking, you're hyperactivating those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that in people, Brian. That's so weird.
Wow. I didn't know you were a personal trainer for gorillas. from Nibiru or whatever. Yeah, no, it's pretty much like 99% of people. Like, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe it. But it is what it is. Absolutely. We just got to fix it. Well, not fix it. Deal with it. So with your course, the PRI Integration for Fitness and Movement, can you give us a bit of a breakdown of how that differs from not only the primary PRI courses, but also your average fitness class, I guess you would call it?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm really using my words well today, let me tell you.
You're great, Brian. You're amazing.
It's okay. And now I follow you. The one thing is that it's an affiliate course. And so what that means from a PRI standpoint is that you don't have to have any prerequisites to take that course. If you have an interest in fitness and movement, it's a course that you can start taking day one. Like, you don't have to take myokinematics and postural respiration, any of the primary courses. We introduce it. The other big thing about our courses, we don't talk about pathology. We're just really, it's an advanced biomechanics course, kind of talking about how to empower core performance and manage hyperactivity. So it's not, we're talking about some general mechanics around gait, breathing, and optimizing the core. So, there's a lot of material that's packed into 2 days. So, there's a lot to it. What makes this course different than every other fitness course out there is that it's not a course about stretching or strengthening. It's about a course about neurology and respiration. So we talk about inhibition and facilitation. So traditional fitness education, strength and conditioning exercise, courses, they teach you what muscles to turn on, what muscles to strengthen. And we focus a lot on teaching about what hyperactivity does, how to manage the hyperactivity, and how hyperactivity affects a person's ability to sense position in the ground. So how that affects closed-chained exercises and compound movements, ground-based training. If your body can't shut down hyperactivity, it's going to have a hard time to sense position, and the hyperactivity is going to put the brakes on efficient movement. And so then your body is not going to be able to synchronize various parts and work together, and then you'll just use a compensatory strategy to power through that movement. So, yeah, does that help?
It sounds kind of like the Yonda approach.
Well, there's a little, there's a bunch of different approaches that are sprinkled in. Posture, at the heart and soul of everything, like, there's a lot of systems out there right now that are sprinkling in breathing, but the Posture Restoration Institute was something that was always designed about, breathing and influencing the respiratory system first, because that's the foundation of how posture and movement is built off of. If we look at the sequential development of how we learn to crawl and walk, and kind of the natural sequence that occurs when we're babies and developing core strength, it's very influenced by rib cage and pelvic positioning and breathing.
100%. 100%. And the deeper I get into the rabbit hole of the pelvis is Brian, you
just sit and cry.
just pretty much. It's just so amazing how much tiny bit of pelvic position change can like change an exercise. It's just like it blows my mind, and
for sure.
And teaching people how to change it is like so rewarding. It's like I never thought I'd be like happy about teaching people how to move their pelvis, but it actually is. It's quite fun. And then the whole rib cage position, and the flared back and tucked ribs. Like, it goes far beyond your basic like personal training. Like you're right. It is a science.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Some people will try to say that PRI is a tool, but really it is a framework. It's a framework of having to put all this all together. Like, how do you know how to position a pelvis and position a rib cage to synchronize and work together? Because that's ultimately how we're going to develop proximal core stability. So, PRI helps us. It gives us a framework to understanding various biomechanical relationships, and it really gets down to integrity of like how these relationships are supposed to be working together. A lot of the times before PRI, I was guessing a lot. I was just kind of throwing a dart at a dartboard, hoping to hit the bullseye and saying, yeah, do this, try this. But once you learn how to apply the objective tests, and once you learn how to analyze posture and movement through a PRI lens, you have much more purpose. You can get to the root cause of the problem or the root imbalance so much faster, because it goes down to balancing the system from the inside out, from the diaphragm outward. So, I mean, that's something that I really appreciate, even as a businesswoman, of trying to, how to get better outcomes faster. How to, because that's the fact. Like, people want things yesterday.
Yep.
They don't want to put in the time and the work a lot of the time. So if we can help them understand their bodies faster, it makes a world of difference.
100%.
Absolutely. Now, go ahead.
Oh, Brian, please go first. I was going to ask you a question, Brian, but
fair enough. So, Julie, I was kind of curious. I mean, I know you're doing a lot of more physical therapy work these days, but for someone who comes in with, we'll call it, quote, the pattern, without any symptoms, how do you work with someone in that regard?
Well, they might not have symptoms in the physical realm. They might not have any joint pain.
That is what I meant.
Yeah, but I mean, meanwhile, they can have a lot of other systems related to stress management, poor sleep. So, I mean, there's a lot of, there's other things that we work on. And, part of, I guess, what I do now is I'm more of like a conductor or a coordinator, consultant in some ways. Like, people will come in, and then I have a team of professionals where they might come in for physical therapy, or they might come in for mental conditioning services or acupuncture. Like, people come into our business for different ways, and I'm one of the main evaluators to help get them on a plan of care, or an optimization track if that's what they want. We have different tracks in the business I run, where some people are more restorative and some people are more performance based. But I mean, there's something that everyone's looking to either improve or restore, or just revived, in a sense, to manage stress, improve sleep, hygiene, or to optimize performance. And whether that performance be through fitness or sport, or whether that just mean, their work output and productivity.
Nice.
So, Brian, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
You're looking into taking the PRI course, right?
Correct.
And have you signed up yet?
I have.
All right. And what is your main motivation behind signing up for it? Like, what do you want to get out of it?
Just to further my knowledge of the PRI framework. I've been working with a couple of physical therapists over the last year or so that use the PRI techniques, and it's the only thing I found that's worked for me. So I tend to stand by that.
Yeah, I mean, first-hand experience is pretty important. Now, do you have? Because I assume, Julie, you've probably taken quite a few different PRI classes.
Yeah, just a few.
Just a few. Yeah.
Just a few.
So
yeah,
what can Brian expect, really?
Do you know who? So you're taking Myokin, you said?
Yeah, taking it with Mike Cantrell.
Okay, well, Mike's awesome. You'll love him. Basically, the Myokin course, for instance, is one of the lower extremity, looking at biomechanics around the pelvis and the femur, and looking at components of gait. So I think that just, in school, we all go, and when we kind of start learning about human body, you learn about the knee, you learn about the hip, you learn about the elbow, even how our medical system's set up. You have a gastrointestinal problem, you're going to see this specialist. You have back pain, you're going to see this specialist. We look at all these regions of the bodies and all these specialties, but very few systems help you tie it all together. Mm-hmm. And put it all together. And that's what I love about postural restoration. It's looking at the system, and it's looking how do we tie all of these systems? We're a system of systems. How do we tie? We have to get all of these body parts, this femur, this pelvis, the spine, to work together. How do we do that? And so each of the primary courses kind of give you a piece of the puzzle to learn, but ultimately you have to be able to put it together. And that's something that occurs more in the advanced and secondary courses. You know, you have to kind of, the courses are guidelines. They provide guidelines to learning everything and putting it all together. Whereas the affiliate course that I teach, really one of the things that I felt like the industry needed was it needed a big overview. People needed to understand the system, you know, from a big picture standpoint in order to grasp the details. Because basically, I mean, you're going to learn a lot of great details about how the pelvis moves over a femur. You know, you mentioned about, you know, kind of cueing the pelvis. And so there's you know, in traditional fitness and strength conditioning, kind of, we learn how to stretch a hip by moving a femur in an acetabulum. But we don't really, but most of the compound training that we would do is actually moving an acetabulum over a femur with a rib cage on top of it. So, you know, these closed chained compound movements, it's a socket moving over a femur. So, you know, that's one of the things that you're going to learn in the myokin is really attention to how the socket moves over the femur. And so, and what muscles are involved in kind of controlling that.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I feel overwhelmed with just the
the synopsis.
Right.
Well, that's probably like one of my personal passions is I feel like one of my purposes is to help bridge the gap, because there is this advanced science that, you know, either people love it or they hate it and they talk bad about it, you know what I mean? And it's like, I've heard, you know, part of, I guess, who I am also is I'm a military wife. And, you know, we had to move 6 times in a 4-year period where I had to pick up and plant myself in another town. And I was like, you know, this person who did PRI, nobody knew what the heck PRI was, you know, and trying to explain it is always interesting. And you find people either love it or they hate it. And most of the people that hate it really don't understand it. You know, it's like it's too complex or too analytical, or it's like, you know, they just want to move and have fun, which there's definitely value. Half of our clients, they just need to get moving. You know, they don't move enough. Their movement profiles are so, they get up, they sit down, they go to work, they drive to work, you know, they're not moving enough. So some people do just need to move, and other people need to kind of get some intricate details of movement balanced out.
That's definitely true. I mean, nowadays in society, we're always sitting, rarely standing. I look at most people's gait when I'm walking around outside, and I'm just like, whoa, like people aren't even aware. And to me, I guess I used to not be even aware, but now you kind of like these X-ray goggles, and it's like such a telling sign that we're not moving within the way that kind of nature designed us.
Yeah, a lot of people are not rotating enough, really. I mean, a lot of people, this whole phenomenon of 4-point gait pattern and swinging your arms, opposite arm with opposite leg, it's, you know, it's really kind of sad. We have a lot of waddlers, or we have a lot of people that just, you know, don't swing one arm, but to actually get some transverse plane, triplanar integration through their core is, you know, it's painful to watch sometimes, but then they'll go, you know, step out on the golf course and they want to rotate like champions.
Yeah, with that one side anyway. But yeah, like definitely the transverse plane and the frontal plane don't get enough love.
Totally. So. I agree 100%.
Yeah, you also better have the sagittal plane mastered, or at least pretty well, before you go doing the others.
Yeah, but like most like if you look at like, let's say like a gym instruction manual or like one of those like fitness books, like 99% of the exercises in there will just be sagittal, and like to a point where it's like, okay, so I've kind of got this down, but people don't realize there's like another level and then another level, and that eventually if you don't have the other parts strengthened, like it's going to be like building an engine into a car that's just way too strong for the car's frame to handle. And yeah, oh well, that's why we do what we do, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yep, totally. And then a lot of people don't realize that the sagittal plane behaves differently on the right side of the body versus the left side of the body. So then that's kind of where the two halves of the body are not syncing up, because there's this underlying, frontal plane imbalance between the two halves of the body. So that's something that you'll learn in Myokin, of how to basically get the sagittal plane to behave more symmetrically. So then it can be empowered to do bilateral symmetrical based movement patterns, like a squat, or barbell press or something. Like, we want the body to be symmetrically balanced to be able to load those kind of movements. Otherwise, the clients, if there's a lot of underlying asymmetries and they can't get the sagittal plane balanced between the two halves of the body, then they're better off doing asymmetrical movement patterns, like split stance lunges, unilateral presses, to help keep their hyperactivity under control, because it's whenever we force symmetry and sagittal plane symmetry on a system that's asymmetrical is when we start to get all of these hyperactive patterns.
Definitely.
Yeah, that makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like she knows what she's talking about, Brian.
Almost.
Yeah, maybe. Just a little.
Right.
Sometimes.
Fair enough. So, I had a question for you. I mean, those 6 moves in 4 years, I mean, that's got to be pretty taxing on you as an individual as well as a family. Were you running your own business at that point in time, or were you working for other people?
Well, I was actually a clinical director at one facility that we left and we moved from Virginia to California. And then I went on as a staff therapist. But I mean, at the heart and soul of who I am, I'm a go-getter, an entrepreneur at spirit. So I ended up opening my own business out there, and I did a lot of consulting and, I did that for a year. And then when we moved back, I took a management job, a regional manager job, and I've always been into kind of different leadership and just personal growth kind of opportunities. And about 2 years ago, I decided to open my own business, and my husband's career's going to be planted here in Virginia Beach, so his Navy career, hopefully, I guess, God willing. But we decided to take the leap of faith just because we moved so much that, I mean, I was supportive of his career. He's supportive of mine in the sense is that he wanted me to be happy in a sense. So we opened up a business, Thrive Proactive Health, and it's doing great. So it's growing faster than I could have ever imagined through the grace of God. So it's awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Just kind of curious as to kind of how you taking something that so many people have not heard of and create a thriving business while you're moving all over the place.
Yeah, well, God has given me a gift of talking, of influence. I think one of the things that I'm known for is tricking people into learning PRI. It's been a joke, but, I've been in settings where maybe they heard something from somewhere else, or people have judgments. There's this one facility I'll never forget that I worked at. When I came on, the manager that was there before me that I was taking on, that I was actually coming in to take her position, and she was moving on to another position, she emailed one of these local university professors, and she asked the professor, hey, this girl that's coming into our business is really into this PRI stuff. What do you know about it? And this professor that was really into academia, he basically emailed her back and said, oh, don't believe anything that she has to say. This postural restoration stuff there's no research behind it. It's a bunch of crap, all this stuff. And so then I came into this business, and I didn't know about this. I didn't find out about this whole incident until a couple months later. But, as kind of some of the other staff confided in me. But, I've gone into different settings where people had judgments about me before I even got to know them, and it's been interesting because intuitively I can pick up on that stuff in a way. And so I've never been one to force things on people. And at the end of the day, even with learning postural restoration, it's like I had to work through some of my own paradigms. Like, I thought I understood human movement and posture from, Pilates and physical therapy. I thought I understood what optimal posture was. And then postural restoration challenged me to look at different, biomechanical relationships through a totally different lens. And so I can appreciate like core stability, trunk stability, and I know gaps in the industry. So basically I just started putting together presentations and not even talking PRI. I'm like, let's just talk about pillar strength. Let's just talk about what, how to optimize obliques and how to calm down some knee dominance and quad activity. How do we empower a hip strategy and compound movements? And I would just start talking and putting things into their worlds, and that's kind of how, that's part of my teaching style, and it's part of what made me grow. And those 6 moves over a 4-year period really forced me to become a better communicator. It forced me to really kind of get rooted in who my identity was, because there were times where I'd get so frustrated with always being like different, in a sense of like, I had to look at the rib cage and pelvis, for people that had extremity function. Someone had knee pain or ankle pain, and I'm like, it's not the knee, and I'd want to go up higher in the kinetic chain and address imbalances where every other therapist in that clinic I was working at just wanted to look at the knee, or, just as something like that as an example. And it forced me to really kind of get real with who I am and the road that, that I'm on.
The one less traveled, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's all for a reason, though,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I find, how do I even phrase this? I find learning what you don't know is sometimes more important than learning what you think you know, or having certain knowledge, because once we kind of like move the ego aside and we're like, hey, maybe I don't completely understand this, right? And that's what I've seen in academia. Like, these people get stuck with these scientific journals and studies, and if something doesn't have a PubMed on it, all of a sudden it's useless, even though it's like helping people. And it's like, guys, like, just for a moment, like suspend your disbelief and just kind of think about it. And it's
there's so much value in that. There really is. I just presented at one of the naval hospitals here in town, and I mean, that was kind of one of the heated discussion was about the research, and the fact is, maybe I should be more into the research from that side. But like, if I have a person that's on the table and they're gaining 60 degrees of motion in, less than 10 minutes, and I never stretch the capsule out, or, if I look at, reducing hyperactivity, and I turn off a hyperactive muscle, and that person can now all of a sudden touch their toes when they couldn't even bend forward to, they touch their knees, and now they can touch the floor. So, I mean, like, that's the research. That's all the research that I need. It's the outcomes. It's looking at retest of our own. Some people get so caught up in paper journals and what's on paper, they're missing the opportunity and the experience of natural learning.
100%.
I was listening to another guest of ours who was talking recently about just how poor studies are actually done. And like they were given the reviewers like, hey, you've got to find something is intentionally wrong with this study, and people, like, the reviewers were not able to find it. So you've really got to take studies with a grain of salt.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of it, I mean, I don't think it's consciously, but so much of it is manipulated also to get certain outcomes. I mean, I know of an academia person that did submit a research article about postural restoration, and the research review board basically couldn't believe that they got such good outcomes that they wouldn't take the research article. Like, they didn't accept it because basically the outcomes were too good to be true. And I hear stories. I've heard so many different stories like that in the industry that just, it's like, what's being really I mean, I think it's all data. You know, at the end of the day, we have to take the bits and pieces that work for us and, you know, just open our worlds up to learning from different venues and different dimensions and keep developing ourselves. And I'm not, you know, I'm saying let's look at the research, but even, you know, looking at some of the stuff out there, Paul Hodges, like, you know, put out about the core and the, you know, obliques and the diaphragm. People take bits and pieces of that and they'll turn his work into something that it's not, you know, because at the end of the day, research can only measure one thing at a time. It's not the art and science of what makes us good and practitioners. A lot of it is the art of how we put things together.
That's true. And what you were mentioning before is seeing changes before your eyes. It's like, yeah, like this works. It may not be, you know, printed on a piece of paper somewhere, but it's definitely effective. So.
Yeah. I mean, for me, was the biggest thing was the test retest. Like I've always had that mentality in everything I did, whether it was a manual therapy technique or, you know, any other kind of system I would use. I would do a test and then I would do a technique and then I would retest to see if I gained mobility or muscle performance improved or whatever. And, you know, that to me, that's what sold PRI, even at the early stages, whenever I wasn't getting it. I was seeing mobility changes in people that I could not explain through my basic physical therapy, athletic training, like education. And I'm like, how did that just happen? There's no way that shoulder just, you know, the posterior capsule was tight and it just let go and gained 60 degrees. Like something just happened, and then kind of got to the underlying root of these restrictions.
Yeah, it's a little like black magic.
Something like that.
Something like that. I do know we got some time constraints, so Brian, unless you have some further questions, are we good to go into the wrap-up?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, cool.
All right. Julie, I'm just curious, what is your current area of study?
What's my current area of study? Human movement? Is that like a fair answer? I don't really know.
Sure.
Just okay. Movement, maybe? I don't know.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So, who is the first person that comes to mind, or what is your definition of the optimum human?
Well, the first thing as a joke makes me think of James Anderson, my teaching partner that I teach. He oversees the affiliate program. But I like joke with him when I teach because I don't know how he functions sometimes. He teaches almost every weekend. And, you know, whenever I'm working full time and I go and then I teach over a weekend and I have to travel across the United States and I come back Monday, I'm exhausted.
Right.
And I'm like, he
wrecked.
just gets up. Yeah. And he just gets up, you know, and does it again. So, but I don't know. You know, I think I don't have a good answer for that.
Fair enough. It's definitely a difficult one because it very few people have come up with a person, and it's just a culmination for most people of attributes. And
I think somebody like I'm really into resilient stuff right now. Just like looking at people that really. You know, one thing that I'm working really hard on is just trying to live a balanced life, you know, being a good family person, being a good business owner, taking care of my people, you know, and, you know, traveling and like serving others, but trying to balance that and also make sure that I'm taking care of myself because, you know, I'm such a giver. So I really look at people that are these optimum humans, of people that have good relationships with people that are successful and have work-life balance. And I guess that's, and, you know, optimum human, I think it's defined differently for everyone. You know, I think it's dependent on our ages and our responsibilities, you know.
Definitely.
You know, I don't think anybody's ever pointed out the age difference, but I think that's an amazing point in this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh my gosh, I know. The more people that you're responsible for in life, you know, like when you're young, I wish I could go back to those days when I was
right.
responsible for me, you know.
Look out for number one.
Yeah, and then as you get more and more, like definitely as my responsibilities increase, I notice that I'll be the first one to kind of sacrifice things for myself to, give to others. And now, like, I think part of being an optimum human is balancing that and making sure that you are taking care of yourself too, and not just giving, everything.
Yeah, you can't burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
It'll only take you so far. And if you pretty much run out of stuff to, if you run out of energy for yourself, then you can't give anymore. So it definitely is a balance.
Totally.
Absolutely. Now, what purchase under $100 has most benefited you and or your practice?
A purchase under $100. A balloon.
I half expected that answer.
I think we got that before, didn't we?
Yeah.
A balloon. I mean, just teaching people how to exhale and breathe. I think that, it's funny because some people are like, you hand them it and they give you that look like, what the heck,
Right.
But it's remembering that our diaphragm's a muscle just like our biceps. We want to keep that muscle optimized, and we want to keep that muscle working and empowered, just like you would want to keep those glutes empowered.
Absolutely. All right.
Empowered glutes. That should be the name of this podcast.
There you go.
I've heard worse suggestions, so I'm not. So, Julie, if you had to rescue 3 books from a pack of wild dolphins, what books would they be?
I like that one.
Virginia Beach. I mean, we'll cater the question to our audience.
3 books. I would say the Bible. That would probably be my number 1 book.
Okay.
But I don't know. I like a book I've read recently called The Miracle Morning. And that's a good kind of like leadership development book in a way.
There's a series of them too.
Yep. And then I'm reading a book, Disease Delusion, right now, which is a pretty good book.
What's that about?
Functional medicine. It's basically kind of getting to the root of issues and not just treating it with medication, and kind of just it's looking at our medical system. I mean, we're very reactive, and so one of my passions is on proactive health and teaching people how to really pay attention to the whispers within the body, so that you don't have to hear them scream. So anything kind of that's into getting to the root of the problem, and that's the disease delusion is looking at it from a functional medicine standpoint.
Okay.
Wait, so you're saying Band-Aid solutions aren't the best thing?
Well,
only for skin wounds. Only for skin wounds.
There you go.
So, Julie, who would you want to hear on this podcast? Who would you want to make suffer, and what would you want to ask them or hear them talk about?
Let's see. Marcus Lemone's business, like the profit. I think the optimal human. I see him do things with managing people that. So I mean, obviously, I'm a business owner right now, and that would probably be if you could get them. Then he's a busy guy. So there's a challenge for you.
There you go.
Well, I think we've gotten the Dalai Lama before, so
yeah,
we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, lots of other people that maybe, but anyways, where can our listeners find you, and how can they find out more about you and what you're doing?
Well, you can visit our website at ThriveVB Virginia Beach. .com. It's Thrive Proactive Health. So that's where we're actually have a new website that's getting launched next month. But
congratulations!
And thanks. And
new websites are always so much fun.
Oh, I know, it's a lot of work. Yeah. And then at the Postural Restoration website, posturalrestoration.com, if you go under the courses, and my course is under the affiliate course. So there's different affiliate courses. There's a baseball one, there's a home health one, and there's a Pilates one, and there's a fitness and movement one. And so that's where they can find more information. And then just going to the community page on the Postural Restoration website, there's a lot of information about what that science is about for people to learn more.
Beautiful. And trying to think if there's anything else. I guess my last question is, do you have any requests, asks, parting words of wisdom for our listening audience?
Just breathe.
Mainly with your chest and traps, right?
Yeah, sure. No, just take some time to get grounded and down-regulate yourself throughout the day, taking, brain breaks, and really learn how to breathe. Belly breathing is not diaphragmatic breathing, so remember that. But learning how to expand your ribcage three-dimensionally, feel yourself grounded, slow down, get a good inhale without using your neck and your back. That would be probably good advice. I don't know.
Beautiful.
I agree. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, Julie, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. Keep up the great work. It's good to see stuff like this being put together.
Got to get the message out there.
Yep, there's definitely lots to becoming the optimum human, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So we got to cover all the bases.
Yeah, I agree. It's never ending.
That I would agree with.
Yeah.
Part of the fun in it, though.
True, very true.
Absolutely.
Julie, thank you for coming on. Brian, thank you for coming on. Audience, thank you for listening this far. And everyone have a great time, and remember to breathe.
Absolutely.
Yes, just breathe. All right, thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Optimum Human Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to head on over to iTunes and give a 5-star rating and review, which will help spread the word to more awesome listeners just like you. Head on over to theoptimumhuman.com and subscribe to the free newsletter and get the Optimum Human's Blueprint to the Optimum Life. Download it instantly. Thanks for listening.